Now, I happened to be out. There was a place open that I've been looking to get into for quite some time. I finally got in and I found a few things. But the best thing was something I couldn't believe was just sitting on a table there. We're going to talk about what I got right here in my hand. Hey, it's Don. We're going to look at a few things I found today, as well as a whole niche related to one single item I found that I just couldn't honestly believe that the lady had. I was out, I had to take my son out to college. I had like 30 or 40 minutes to kill. It wasn't worth me going home. Ended up driving by a place I haven't been able to get into and actually caught somebody there. So I got to source a few items that no one's seen in quite some time because the doors have been locked for well over a year. Now, I do love Americana, and this is obviously Wrestling Federation, early 1980s. You've got Ricky Steamboat, Hulk Hogan, and Rowdy Roddy Piper. Now, those who aren't necessarily into wrestling would probably remember Rowdy Roddy Piper from the movie They Live, sci-fi classic, and the whole works. Now, it has the thermos in it as well, as you can see. Now, these are the plastic ones. Now, I spent 10 bucks on the thermos and the lunchbox together. I usually get around 40 or 45 bucks for these type. Now, I'm very selective when I buy these. The WF, any of the wrestling ones go extremely well, as long as they're in good condition. This one needs just a little bit of wiping, and other than that, it's pretty nice. Now, I also got a thermos on its own. Now, this is the Bionic Woman, and I remember these from when I was a child. I couldn't see a date on here, but knowing when this came out, this is obviously, I think, from the 70s-ish range or somewhere in there. I watched The Bionic Man, and I remember this series extremely well. Now, it's dirty, but I've checked it out. It just needs a good cleaning, and it'll be all set, ready to go. It's got the whole inside, the cap, and everything else. Now, the lunchbox I wished would have been in there. This is one of the earlier ones, but still, I get 20 or so bucks for the thermoses because many times people will just find the lunchbox. I might get even more than that on this one here once I clean it up. Now, the best one, or probably one of my favorites out of here, is this one here from Super Mario Brothers. And it's 88, so this is an original Nintendo 1988 Super Mario Brothers. It's got a metal latch, which is always better than the other one has a plastic one. This is a metal one. And it has the thermos. Had it not had the thermos, I probably wouldn't have messed with it. It's the right one. Now, there's a couple different versions of thermoses, so you want to make sure you don't get the wrong one that goes with the lunchbox, but it's all there. Excellent condition. It's not faded or anything else like that, so 40, 45 bucks again, 10 bucks cost into it. If I can get it back in here, we will be all set. Now, I purchased a bunch of records too, which I'm not going to go through right now. The best thing I got, though, is this little tiny miniature book. Hand-tooled leather, the whole works. We're going to look at the inside here in just a minute. Now, I love miniatures. Anybody who's seen my channel for any length of time knows I talk quite a bit about miniatures. I've created my own on my other channel, The Art Professor. I do miniatures of real-life items and things like that as a hobby. I love the books. This one is a Shakespeare book. Best part about it is it's from 1825. It's hand-tooled leather in excellent condition with hand-marbled paper. It's got end paper that's been hand-marbled. It has gilt on the edges as well, or some of the edges. This is from 1825. It's not hoping it's 1825. It is. And I've taken some great care in researching this one here. One of these has not sold in a very long time, years from what I can see, and it's by William Pickering, which is a very well-known author. Now, you can look up his name if you're curious. Now, I'm being careful with this. I don't want this damaged or anything else happening to it. It does have engraved images in here, which are always better as well. And it's Shakespeare, as I said, so these always go extremely well for us. Now, I've spent 75 bucks on every single thing I bought, including a big stack of records, as I said. Now, on this book here, I'm going to put a fairly high price on it. Books like this with leather in this condition from someone this well-known, this early, it's a really nice, very well taken care of copy of this. Condition is everything. Now, if this was a trashed out book, $150 maybe. But in this condition, I'm going to shoot for at least $450 to say $750 list price on it right off the bat. Now, we have personally sold miniature books in not this good of condition for $500 and $600 in the past. So miniature books have been around for a very long time. They go back 400 and 500 years ago. Paper was expensive. It was hard to print back then as well, too. They took their time to create them. It was something you could take with you when you traveled. Back in, say, the 1700s, early 1700s and before, a large percentage of the population couldn't read. So there wasn't mass-produced, like there are today, books. So miniatures were collected for various reasons. You could also find them for kids' books as well. Advertisements, promotional items. Even in modern-day times, they put small miniature comic books and things like that in cereal boxes. Now, I'm a huge fan of miniatures, and I always nab them up. This is an interesting one here from the World's Fair. It's from the 1876 Philadelphia World's Fair here. This was a promotional item. Now, I don't think the person selling this probably knew that, but this is from the World's Fair. It's an original deal. Most of these can go for hundreds of dollars, these small books. Now, a ton of them are devotional or religious. That's what you'll find a lot of. And this is one from Europe. You'll see, I think it looks like €1 in there. It went for over $500 for this little beat-up book. Now, this is extremely old, but this is what you would expect to find from back in that time frame. You can see the Roman numerals very clearly that date this accurately. Now, devotional or religious you will find with these fancy gilded covers. This would have been brightly gilt at one time when it was new. These do go way back as well. Some of these early gilded covers with brass like this can go back 300 and 400 years. This one sold for over $200. Now, kids' books, as I was saying earlier, came in these boxed sets sometimes, or you could find single ones. Even in gumball machines, you can find tiny little miniature books. Cracker Jacks is another one that issued tiny miniature books. A large chunk of what I find are geared towards kids, cereal, and all those sorts of things in modern day times. Going back, they issued them like this here. It's a whole set of them as well. It goes for pretty good money, a couple $100 for tiny little books that only have a few pages in each one. Now, there's some political and interesting ones as well. This is from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This is a signed edition. There are 100 signed copies of this book here, as well as a ton of other ones that were produced in larger quantity that weren't signed or numbered. So these can go for some pretty decent money as well, as you see, just over $200 for this one. Now, here's one that I've ran into a few times in the past, and I've always gotten $150 or more for this one every single time. You should recognize the author very obviously. Wild Things You Should Know, the movie, the whole works, all tied into this author here. Now, age isn't always everything. It depends on the actual book itself. Some were mass-produced. Even these little tiny ones you will run into that were mass-produced. A lot of the Bibles of this size you can run into. I've had a few going back to this time frame. Now, here's one that I've actually had a copy of, and this is The Bunches of Grapes. That's the title of this one. This was mass-produced, and it does turn up in old book collections fairly often compared to some of the other ones I'm showing you. It's a small, tiny one, as you can see by the fingers holding the book. It usually sells for around $150 or better. I think the last one I sold, I got $142 and some pocket change. Now, on a side note, there's some very well-known artists who created miniature books in modern-day times. This is from, I think, 1990s era. Now, this one's an extremely rare one because this one is a pop-up book as well. If I'm not mistaken, this was hand-created by the artist. Miniatures in general by artists, even in modern days, go for some really good money if they're well done and look very authentic and realistic. And I think most of her work actually has 4 pop-ups inside of them. Here's just another one by the very same artist as well. So the price does range and vary by the actual book itself. She made quite a few different ones. So this is something that people can still create right this very second at home in your studio or something like that and still get some money. Dollhouse miniatures or these doll-sized miniature books of any type will go for some decent money if you do them properly. This is a leather-bound one with actually 24-karat gilt text, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Well, there we have it. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
This calls for the sour stripe.
Help! Help!
A quick change and beech nut stripes again. New beech nut sour stripes gum. 5 fruit flavors in every pack.
New Sour Stripes gum hangs on to flavor. How does that stripe you?
Sour!
Who was that striped man anyway?
I don't know, but he left this.
Buy beech nut. Buy gum.